Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse Podcast, brought to you by Passion Fruit. I am joined today by our editorial director, Drew Grant, also known as VIDEODREW Online. You know her as my co-host for Deep Linkers that we host occasionally. We're doing something a little different today. Since this is our season finale for season 2 of Reactorverse, we're going to be going on a small break after this, come back in the late mid-fall. I'm going to be the interviewee this time. I'm going to be interviewed by Drew today, and she's gonna just sort of examine me as it is, put me in the hot seat for once. I've been luckily been able to do for so many people for the past year. It's been a great run so far. I'm really excited to do more in the fall. I think we have some exciting things on the horizon, but for this one we wanted to take a moment to just sort of reflect and look back on sort of my experience in the space and how the show's developed so far, and hopefully give some insight into what that's been like.
Thank you so much, Eric, for that. And you do have your plate of hot wings right in front of you, right? So I can be asking you questions about your childhood while we go over all of this.
I'll try.
You'll try. We actually have our hot dogs right here. Guys, this is really exciting. I've always wanted to talk to Nerd Chronic, aka Eric Rodriguez, about his role in the reaction community because, spoiler alert, this was kind of an idea that was dreamed up by us together. And I knew nothing about reactions when I met Eric about 4 or 5 years ago, working at the Movie Trivia Schmodown, where he was the promo editor. But I guess to start out, Eric, like, what got you into the reaction space? What got you into this field of watching people watch movies and television, that made you so dedicated to it?
Yeah, it was around 2017. 16, 17 is when I found it. The big catalyst, as I've mentioned in many episodes with other people, is The Walking Dead. That was such a major show that sort of, really birthed life into the reaction space, along with like Game of Thrones and some other key shows. The main thing was that at the time, Skybound was promoting reaction compilations are being edited by Johnny Odell, now known as J2O, on his own channel. And so at that time, that was sort of like a way that for a platform to sort of promote that material in a way that just wasn't really a thing at the time. And so I found it through that, and season 7 going into it with like the Jeffrey T. Morgan as Negan thing, that big season premiere is what launched, like 1,000 channels in a way. And I was one of the viewers at that point, looking for different people to see how they reacted to it, sort of getting into the different sort of like personalities. From there, I found like the normies, found Iman Snow, I found, Shady Presley, and just a bunch of people at the time who were big Walking Dead fans and were sharing their experience with it. So that's what sort of like, introduced me to just like the concept of like, what was going on there. And from there I was able to sort of like, see the personalities amongst that, obviously I think the thing that people get into reactions the most for is like, oh, I want to see this specific scene or this moment or this movie I like. But then when it hooks someone, it's because of the personality, and you get to know the people a little more through their, affectations and the sort of their personality quirks and stuff like that. And that's what sort of like, drew me in, is just seeing that there's a community of people here that all have this sort of, very unique insight to the material, not just like, whoa, like here's the thing that happened. Like, it's like getting to know them a little more was the biggest value to me.
Oh, and I think that's an interesting word choice you just brought up, of community. I mean, like, a lot of times we talk about creator community on the internet, and we're not actually talking about like a community in any sense of the word, of people who know each other, people who get together around certain causes. We're talking about a group of very disparate people with very disparate goals and stuff. But the reaction community it feels like maybe an actual community of people who may know each other a little bit better now, in large part, thanks to you and your work here on the Reactionverse. Not to toot your horn here, but it's been almost a year, a little bit over a year, I think, since we started, maybe a year and a half since we started Reactorverse as our very first passion fruit show. And we've hit almost 500,000 viewers. So there's people out there who are watching us, stuff like Crossing the Streams. We've had over 40 guests on. You've interviewed so many people who I think have gotten to know each other in the space. So what can you tell me a little bit about the reaction community as it exists right now? What are they interested in that space? What do they care about?
Yeah. The main thing that I've learned, just interviewing people for the last year about it, is yeah, obviously community is such an important element of like sort of what motivates them to keep going. It's a big part of like, how these channels thrive is sort of building their communities. Previewed has like the Peaches, Nikki and Steven have like the sticker, community that they call it. And so like sort of building those, monikers that they have for each other is just important, and then that really drives interaction between them. And I really like the reaction space because it has community on two fronts. It has community within like the individual channels that they build for their viewers, but then amongst that, behind the scenes, there is like a really tight community of like reaction channels that people, work together with to like, help support each other and to, inform each other about like, tactics and sort of, tricks of the trade that they share with one another. And just over the years, I've seen that grow. I think one of the things I noticed early on was, a handful of channels interacting, like Blind Wave, the Normies, they collab like a lot whenever they can get together, across state lines. But then it's just, post pandemic, we've seen that develop even more so because everyone has the ability to do everything remotely. So now I'm seeing more collaborations between channels, over Zoom, StreamYard, whatever, to do joint reaction videos, to do collab videos, do sketches, do just like fun ideas. Cinnabinge just did their mean comments video that they had a bunch of channels come together for. Popcorn in Bed does their Poppy Awards every year that features award nomination categories read by other channels. And so it's just this like everyone's starting to come together a little more. I think every time, someone sort of crosses that threshold, it gets a little easier for people to reach out and see like, oh, it's possible to do these things and to like sort of like, reach out. And yeah, it makes people feel not as alone, but it also informs them of, how do I go about this? I think that's when like my sort of main goal with the channel with Reactorverse is just to sort of help people understand what goes into the work behind it, because it does seem easy. I think that's the misconception people have, is like reactions are like low effort content. That's been like the sort of the stigma behind it, for a long time. And no, just talking with so many people in the space over the years, it's like there is a lot of work that goes into it. Even if it is like, just sitting down and watching a movie or TV show, there's just so much, pre and post planning that go into just making a single video and putting it out on a week to week basis. So yeah, I just wanted to enlighten people about like what that process is like.
And I mean, I don't think it's, I think you talk about this a lot on the show, so I don't think it's any surprise to the viewers here that you are also an editor for a lot of these channels. So you have like firsthand knowledge of what it's like dealing with some of these big issues like DMCA, copyright takedown notices, dealing with certain studios, dealing with certain other, issues as they come up. What have you seen sort of like as sort of the biggest trajectory in that arena, or the biggest movement in that arena since you've been starting editing for reactions?
Yeah. I've edited for several reaction channels over the years. I've edited for, I'll try to rattle them out off the top of my head. I've edited for like Iman Snow, Epic Corinne, Blind Wave, The Normies, Previewed, Late to the Party, Real Rejects, Akasan, Cat and Sunny, Cinepals. I know I'm forgetting like a couple. If I am, then you're seeing this, I apologize. But yeah, it's been a journey to sort of get to know more of these people, and to work with them behind the scenes and help, elevate their work as best as I can. But like you said, within that, the main thing that Kyle Katarn, don't want to forget Kyle Katarn, my main guy.
Love Kyle.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up because Kyle was an example of someone who asked me for help because specifically, he was having issues getting past the copyright system. He like every video he was putting out was getting struck down. He was at like a stalemate with it, where he was like, I can't put out a single video without it getting claimed or like blocked.
And he's specifically a Star Wars creator?
He's a Star Wars creator. He has another channel called Grizzle Wizard, where he does like non-Star Wars material, like fantasy adjacent stuff. But yeah, like, so him just learning how to do that on his own was, like a huge hill to climb. He had got recommended to me from someone, a mutual friend. I forgot exactly who it might have been. But he reached out to me and asked like specifically like, hey, I'm having issues with this, like would you be interested in helping me out with the edits, to get me past the copyright system. And I helped him out. It worked out. I did the first or the second season of Mandalorian with him, and it's been a great working experience ever since, help him get those out. But yeah, the system itself has evolved over the years where I, you know, things you could do, 5, 6 years ago, just like definitely wouldn't fly now. Like,
Hmm.
the with the window of what you can do gets smaller and smaller each year. I think, they definitely update their algorithm every year or so that, to find things more easily. I'm, dreading the day when they try to toy around with AI to use that stuff, because I think then it's going to be hopefully, damn near impossible to get past it. But yeah, just helping people navigate, what that's been like, because the studio system itself has like sort of pretty much like within YouTube has like a zero tolerance policy of like, if we catch you, like it's no, that's it. Like, there's been small, wiggle rooms now with like, like shared revenue and things like that to keep your videos up at least. And well, how you can manage that, you can do the appeal process. But the main thing with the copyright system that, plagues creators the most is like, it's just so nebulous that people don't have information on like how to do it, appropriately, so to speak. People are just
Hmm.
trying their best, and like there's no guideline on like how to do it. Everyone's just getting secondhand information from one another of like, oh, it's 10 minutes, is the best way to do it. No more than 6 to 10 seconds to keep it on screen, like stuff like that. It's just looking at others, your peers, and seeing how they are getting by.
Hmm.
I saw someone today, Mary Cherry, asking like, can I like do blood in black and white? Will that work, or will I get demonetized for it?
Hmm.
People still trying to figure out how to navigate these things. And so for me, learning more about that with the creators, it's been interesting just seeing like their sort of different approaches, like how they want to do it. The Real Rejects are very heavy on censorship these days, just because like, demonetization is adjacent to the copyright stuff, where it's like, it's just so unknown. Like you can get demonetized, not even know why you
Hmm.
got demonetized. It's just like something got flagged and now it's no money for you. And
Hmm.
so they're very, gun shy about, like putting anything in that could trigger that. And for the, dealing with the studios now, I think there's, an understanding being reached somewhere, by
Oh.
certain studios, that you can, collaborate with them. Like studios are trying to reach out more, I think, to channels for like, reaction material,
Hmm.
whether that be, like, can we use you in a compilation, or, hey, like, you get screeners, for reactions that we know that's what you're doing with it. It's okay by us. I think most channels, want to work within the system. They
Hmm.
just want like a concrete answer of like how they can do it right.
Hmm.
I had, last year I had lunch with a Nerdy Nightly, another channel, and like the way they put it was, they said, we don't want to buck the system, we want to work with it. We want to like find out like how we can operate within it. Now we're not trying to overthrow anything here. And that's the main thing. It's like, it's just like this animosity between creators and studios, because YouTube as a middleman doesn't really facilitate a conversation.
Hmm.
And I think, if there was an opportunity there, I think most creators would leap at the opportunity to talk with them and say like, hey, what can we do? Sort of, meet you halfway here and find, what avenues are appropriate that you want us to sort of work within.
Yeah, I think that's, I think that's something that you and I have obviously talked about a lot. I think one of the things that has come up, just even originally when we were talking about Reactorverse as a, a glimmer in the eye, was really the idea that there is no uniformity in what the studios have decided is a copyright counts as a copyright violation. It's different from studio to studio. It's determined by an algorithm. Unfortunately, AI is already here. It is already determining like auto claiming stuff. Very few studios like actually have somebody manually going in and deciding, you know, like on a just large enough basis what's getting claimed, and it can change from studio head to studio head. I believe
Yeah.
somebody once told us like Warner Brothers, like almost like the day David Zaslav came over, like that changed their the ability that they had to post that kind of material from Warner Brothers, even if they had been previously in good relationship with them. So
Yeah.
it's just really it's a really strange tumultuous period where you can see someone like John Cho doing wicked like mashups, like posting his own mashup of other people reacting to his trailer, and then knowing you might not be able to get a whole reaction of Wicked up, even if the
Yeah.
director wanted to see it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. Yeah. More actors and directors and talent, behind the scenes of the movies are starting to pick up on it. And like I've seen people specifically tag. I saw Bryce Dallas Howard tag several channels for their reactions to her episode of The Mandalorian,
Mhm.
or episode of Book of Boba Fett with The Mandalorian, at
Mhm.
that time. And yeah, it's like, it's not like a big secret. Like I think people have talked about it a lot, when Warner Brothers had their, the shift change over there, so many channels were getting older videos like taken down, like old Game of Thrones reactions, or like Supernatural or Buffy or whatever, things from like way back when, like that wouldn't even be seen today. So like I know some people were just like, oh, like okay, like I'm not gonna fight for a video from 5 years ago that I put up. Like that's fine. It's just like yeah, but you said it's an automated system that goes out, and so whatever sort of new button they pushed when that happened, is what's really plaguing people these days, because again, there's no conversation to be had. It's just like a system that's
Mhm.
running, and they don't really have the opportunity to sort of explain themselves about it.
I mean, it's a crazy thing, and it's crazy too that YouTube themselves like promotes revenue that you can make off of creators to studios. That basically, if you can use an automated system and make money if for the 5 seconds, 10 seconds clip, you can basically claim someone's whole video, and that's one of the crazier things, one of the most eye-opening things I think I've done in my own like research about this space and why it feels like people are making less and less money while still like getting so many views. Have you seen people sort of have you talked to people who have sort of navigated that space? Are people going to Patreon? Are people delving into more of the community side? I mean, how are people dealing with the fact that YouTube ad revenue is just not what it used to be?
Yeah, it varies from channel to channel. Specifically within reactions, obviously, it's a volatile market to be in. I think Previewed was saying, in terms of getting sponsorships, it's hard because sponsors want to know like how many views do you generate, within a video, and they're like, it's hard to tell. Like maybe this movie is a hit because people really like it. Maybe it bombed at the box office and people don't really want to talk about it. It's like that sort of, those variables are hard to sort of quantify when you're trying to, assess the value of your channel in a way, at least the ad value of it. And so most channels, like the ad revenue as sort of like a base to use. If you can sort of, navigate that and like, build that up, that's great. But I think most of them thrive off of the community support, and sort of focusing on that. Most channels that I've talked to have had, thriving Patreons where they're very transparent about what they do. It's just like, I, like to do this, but the specific material that we work with is copyright material, and it's hard to keep up, it's hard to get through most times. So if you want to see me help me keep going, like I would really appreciate the direct support through like a Patreon or like a YouTube membership, that where you can get something, more bang for your buck that sort of goes directly to you for that patronage. The ad revenue stuff, I think it's definitely a smaller percentage of channels that I've talked to that have been able to figure that stuff out and to keep that on a consistent level. That's, a good, dependable source of income for them. Otherwise, it is Patreon and their memberships that sort of drive their main value.
Well, and I think that's like really sad because when you talk about things like television shows like Mandalorian or these episodic weekly shows, to viewing, whether it's on streaming, especially if it's on streaming, or increasingly rarely on actual television. You're saying Bryce Dallas Howard's seen them. I know Raul Coley watches them. The actors and people involved. So these are breaking through to the mainstream audiences. People will watch reactions to the most recent House of the Dragons episode, the most recent Rings of Power episode, and people that can find those reactions. So is it an issue of like sponsors are just not interested in backing even popular reaction videos, or is it just like that's not even crossing people's mind that is a space, just like podcasting is a space where you can support your favorite viewer or just favorite reactor who might be being watched by celebrities?
Yeah. The thing is, the sponsors are definitely open to working with reaction channels. I've seen, several channels that, get sponsors pretty frequently. If they're able to build that relationship, they get more, as you do it, you get more opportunities from them to keep going. I think the main issue that we saw, especially, in the last year with like the writer's strike and everything, is that the sort of concept of reaction videos, as I navigated with like movie and TV show reactions, and then next to that music reactions as well, is that people don't really sort of get like what they are, like by definition or description. Like you say a reaction video, I think it was hard to explain exactly what that meant, to like the, Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild last year, and sort of explain like what goes into that. Like, hey, it's like, we're not just like watching like a whole movie or something. Like we're doing like commentary, we're doing like, edits and like all this sort of like, very unique, things to it. So like for sponsors, I think it might be this issue of like, we still need to sort of explain what the, reaction video is to them so they can understand like, oh, who's being, shown this material, what kind of audience is it being conveyed to, and then on top of that, what kind of barriers is it breaking to like the mainstream traditional media that's actually making the material that they're reacting to. So like that's sort of synergy that can exist that just hasn't really been like chiseled out yet, I think, between the channels, the sponsors, the studios, so they can like sort of figure that out.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I certainly didn't quite understand what reactions were, or why. I guess I didn't understand when we first met why people would watch alongs of movies, like that people would just want to watch, especially in a way that was not Mystery Science Theater, like making fun of something. What the appeal was to watching a show that you've just seen, because again, this is where I think the copyright thing starts getting a little bit loopy. Is that no one's watching the show for the first time or the movie for the first time via a reaction channel, because by very nature of how it's done and how you yourself edit them and other people are editing them, even to get it past YouTube, they are cut up into almost like best moments. So you're never getting the whole episode, for the most part. I mean, YouTube wouldn't allow it. So what you're watching is a highlight reel of like the big hitting moments. And when it's done really well, it can seem seamless. It can seem like a whole episode, but it's very rare that you're going to watch the first episode of something like just by itself because of like you're watching the reaction channel and not the original content. So I didn't. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, they get cut up into highlights or cut downs. And you're right. I'd say 90% of the time, people are watching it as like a second viewing, to share the experience that they had, because they want to kind of see like what did my favorite YouTubers think about it and like how they perceive it. I spoke with Adonis Xavier from his channel SS Jutsu, and he explained it as just it's as simple as you see a funny video on TikTok or YouTube and you go to your friends like, hey, like look at this, like that's basically what a reaction video is. Like it's basically, it is like a lot of confirmation bias. It's a lot of like, ooh, like, did you enjoy it the same way I did? Like you're trying to share the experience that you had. In some instances, like, yes, like that's why it's hard, I think, for reaction channels to sort of have like diverse opinions about certain things. Like, when you like come at it with like, maybe you had a negative experience, about watching it. People don't really respond to that very well because it's like, no, this is my favorite movie. So it is, difficult for, a lot of channels to parse that out. But the sort of concept itself of what reaction videos mean to them is, like you said, it's just sort of watching the material first and then going to the channel to see like, how did this person process it? It's like a sort of hybrid between, having a friend there and criticism in a way, because like a lot of channels, for the most part, like Real Rejects and other channels, like they are very informed about what they're watching, and they're giving sort of like insight that the layman might not have, and they appreciate that, like as much as like we loved watching Ebert and Roper back in the day, because we thought they were like the guys, with like the insight, even though they didn't like Silence of the Lambs, or Beetlejuice.
Oh, I mean, I love to put Ebert and Roper, Ebert and Roper, the first pairing, I think, right? Because it's the other guy,
Ebert,
Siskel and
yeah.
Ebert. Yeah, they did not like Silence of the Lambs. Loved Henry Portrait of the Serial Killer. Really funny to go back and watch those things. But you're right. I mean, that's a big part of it. I also think there's that emotional connection that in the worst kind of use of the term, it's called like a parasocial connection, but it is a connection to another person watching something. And I think there's a lot of vulnerability. It's not just quite the same thing as what I heard of a lot when I went to a recent conference in Vegas, when I heard TikTok and other people talking about reaction videos, and I got so excited. I was like, they're into this space. And then I realized it meant people reacting to other TikToks, like TikTok fails or something like that. And I was like, oh, we almost got there. Maybe we need a different name for it.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine that might be sort of the next evolution of it. As I've tracked, the timeline of reaction videos over the, course of like the interviews I've done, they started in like the 2010s, early 2010s with like trailer reactions. That was like the main first wave we had. And a lot of that currency in those videos was like hype, like people getting like really excited about, like the new Marvel movie coming out and getting like, losing their minds and going crazy over it. And then the second wave would have been TV show reactions like Game of Thrones, Walking Dead, and people then getting more into like emotion about things and sort of, delving into like not just like getting crazy, excited about it, but like, crying and sharing, insight and sort of like, deep emotions about it. And that, led us into the 2020s with the pandemic and people getting into movie reactions, which was, spawned by the studios putting out movies same day as the being in theaters. So people had the opportunity to try that out, to be like, hey, maybe I can do the Batman, the Suicide Squad, coming out same day as in theaters. Maybe people could share that with me. And so now movie reactions are really big for people to watch. That's like the main, sort of currency people have with it. And now, as you're saying, like maybe as we go further into the rabbit hole, it'll be like, reactions to like online content. That's always been a thing, but like right now we're entering the Wild West, like formation, Big Bang formation of what that is, because we see the conversation around it now is the ethical value of it, of people, reacting to other people's content. What does that mean? Is it stealing? Is it like, are you undermining the original posters, like viewer base by like doing that? So yeah, it's a conversation that's still going on right now. It's still like in its infancy of what that means, but I do think it's going to evolve where we can start building those relationships a little more. Again, Kyle Katarn, he built a lot of his, platform off of watching Star Wars fan films, and he's built that, reputation now of like that's what he does. So he gets a lot of appreciation from people who make those films to then be seen on a channel like his, who like, has a lot of Star Wars, fans that go see it. And in that sense, like he mentions, it's like a specific type of appreciation, because Star Wars fan film makers can't make a single cent off of those videos, right? So like it's only for the love of the game that they're doing those videos. So they do appreciate it when a channel like his is able to highlight them and just get them seen by other fans.
You're telling me that on YouTube, like a Star Wars fan video won't be able to be monetized just for using the characters?
That seems to be the case. Yeah. Like, I don't know, maybe you can, like, if you can say it's, I don't know, under some sort of fair use law, but like, I feel like, unless they're turning a blind eye, like I don't think you can monetize making a fan film with like someone in a full Darth Maul makeup and having a double-sided lightsaber,
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never thought about that. I wonder if Slender Man is now off limits because he went from an online meme and now he's gone Hollywood. I think that there's so much we've learned, and I've learned specifically from you about the reaction space, but mostly it's just been a pure joy watching you get a bunch of reactors together to meet for the first time. Like our first crossing the streams, which was, I think you pitched to me as like a multiverse, it's like the Avengers multiverse thing. It's getting all these different channels together to talk about something like, that might seem hyper niche within a hyper niche, which is Attack on Titan's finale, a anime show that is, again, without you, I don't think I ever would have seen it. One of the best television experiences I've ever had in my entire life, and I cannot recommend highly enough. And then watching channel after channel after channel react to the finale, or react to like different episodes. I don't think we've gotten to that many people doing the finale yet, but like just watching everyone talk about it during that crossing the streams, it felt like a convention. It felt like a crossover fan event, and I just want to know what that experience was like for you. Getting that all together.
Yeah. Anime has been a big part of the reaction space as well. It's introduced like a lot of people to that medium. I think it's also gave people a lot of, courage to just express their interest in anime. People my age and your age and like just like anyone sort of our age and above, all shared the same thing, which is like, when I was in middle school and high school, like anime wasn't the cool thing to like, it was like considered like really lame or dorky or niche. So like you get made fun of. But over the last, generation, Gen Z and onward, it's become very mainstream. So that sort of opened the doors for reaction videos to sort of thrive in that space. There are a lot of reaction videos, reaction channels I know that do anime specific videos. They started or did live action and branched into anime as well. LM Reactions, Lola and Milena from Serbia is an example. Like they didn't really have, any anime on their channel, so it was like a gamble to put it on there. They had seen, some older previous stuff like Naruto and everything, but like they wanted to give it a try with Attack on Titan. And Attack on Titan was a huge catalyst because of how grounded it was. Like anime, as much as I love it, can be an acquired taste for a lot of people.
You got me
And
into it.
yeah, so Attack on Titan, as people call it, like the Game of Thrones of anime, but just because of how grounded it is, how like sort of serious and dire it is, and it really grips people from the get go. So I knew when that show was gonna finish again, the Attack on Titan, like the timeline of reactions I just described, that Attack on Titan was there the whole time from the beginning, from 2013 and onward, all like a whole decade worth of that show, because of the hiatus they would take between seasons was so long that it just lasted like a decade plus. So when it was ending, now we lived in a space where all these channels birthed and grew up with the show, and they either caught up with it for the first time recently, or they were day one, viewers or whatever. But I knew it was going to be a big, significant sort of cultural conversation about like, seeing the show end, as much as like Lost or anything, like finally coming to a conclusion. And so I figured, the best idea would be to have some channels come together and just have a, fun conversation about it. And specifically the way it impacted their channels, the way, it, drove them to find new audiences. It drove them to find new, material to watch, with anime after that. And just how it impacted them as creators, but also just how, as fans, we were, eager to talk about the finale of that incredible show.
And you had how many people on for that episode? That was like a 10-person panel.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You're like a real ringleader of managing to harness 10 reactors talking about their favorite anime of all time. Because anime is one of these, speaking of something that deserves more hype, maybe like, not like I need to plug anime as a concept, but there's a specific problem with reacting to most anime on the internet. And I think, we've talked about it a lot, like internally. It's that, there are different copyright laws in Japan, and they go down real hard for anyone doing taking any sort of second of reaction for anything. So it's really hard to do reactions to anime specifically that have any of the visuals of the anime on the screen.
Yeah, you'll notice, any reaction channel that does anime has like, all their, bells and whistles on like what they got to do to it, transparency, cropping, stuff like that, to try and get it past the auto detection system. And again, if they could have a conversation, I'm sure they would love to talk about what parameters, would be acceptable to use. But yes, the copyright laws in Japan are very different. And so it's difficult to, even, approach that, idea. Yuba Roshi, mentioned that maybe some things are shifting because he just went out to Japan for a Jujutsu Kaisen, sponsored event. He said they had to approve their channel to the studio. The studio had to know, like, that makes Jujutsu Kaisen, like what they do for a living, on their channel. And so that was like, he said that was like, interesting that they got approval in that sense to go out there and go do that. But anime, for channels in general, it's been, a fraught issue for them because studios don't go through just the YouTube system, but they'll go, through third party services that we know of to, target channels like on YouTube and on Patreon and other platforms to take down their material. Like a easy example is on Etsy. If you make anime material on Etsy, your page is very subject to getting taken down, things like that. So yeah, it's very tenuous to react to anime material online. But when we did it, and like I was able to put everyone together for that Crossing the Streams episode, I think everyone like express the same, again, the communal aspect of, like we understand together, like we all went through the same thing of trying to figure out how to get past that, threshold of like anime reactions. And once you're able to, then it's like a very rewarding experience because it opens the doors for so many things that you can watch moving forward for your channel.
I mean, I think one of the funniest things when I at least we started Passion Fruit was explaining, how this kind of fit into the larger creator economy and just what a large audience, reactors have. Like, even if you've never heard of them, we're talking about, like, I think we just tallied up once a group of reactors that you knew personally. I think it's maybe the 40. We looked down this list that you originally gave me. It's probably around the 40 people that you've already interviewed in these past 2 seasons. But it totaled up to over a billion channel subscribers. Like, we're talking about like a massive audience, and some of these people have millions of followers. And so, well, it seems like this hyper niche topic that sometimes people are like, how is this really part of the creator economy? Because when we think of creators, we think of this or we think of that, but there's just so much interest in, of course, pop culture, and the people who love pop culture in a certain kind of way and have such an appreciation. Like, they're such super fans that their super fandom has gotten elevated to, we will just watch them watch stuff. They have themselves become celebrities. And it's been such an interesting, like, just journey to watch you interview all these people to hear about their, like, trajectories and their own journeys, watching them go from fans to people who show up at conventions themselves or have conventions themselves in the case of the normies. And it's been, I mean, how much bigger is this space, I guess, is one of my questions. And I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, okay, I've seen these 40 episodes. Where do we go from here?
Yeah. When we started, I did like a rundown of just the people I sort of knew personally by that point, over the years of working with them. And like the sort of collective viewership they have is, considerable, to say what who they're reaching out to. But from there, I've had the opportunity to meet so many great people and, find so many, great channels, that have, their own viewership that just like either they were more recent or they I just wasn't aware of them at first, and like I'm grateful to find them now. But everyone I've talked to has been like really pleasant and just great to speak with, because they all have such unique insight on like their experience with their channels. But finding more as time has gone on, and like just sort of seeing the the vastness of the space, it's interesting because like there are channels that have quote unquote like made it, they've passed the 1 million subscriber count and they're doing really well, but there are channels who have been around for a while who maybe just reached like 100K, and like even though they put a lot of work in over like a more number of years, but the people that they're reaching out to from channel to channel is unique. I think that's the main thing, is that each community that they have is unique. You'll see people, who like reactions in general, maybe go from like, I love Blind Wave, I love the Normies, I love, the Real Rejects, so on. But I think the most interesting thing is that you'll have people who are like you said, I want to watch whatever Nikki and Steven do. I don't want to watch whatever TBR Schmidt does. I like this person specifically. So being able to see those sort of interactions has been really interesting to me, because like then you're able to get more recommendations from people who are asking for like, hey, I want my favorite person to come on the show and be interviewed.
That's so cool. So in terms of the space, we've talked a little bit about what got you into it with The Walking Dead. What has been some of your favorite sort of surprising reactions of content that you didn't think that you'd ever be into, or that surprised you that you actually like watching as a reaction video?
It's tough to say, because like I go into like reaction videos like pretty open-minded. Like I think that's the main thing, is like everyone has channels that they like. They're like, oh, I gotta like this person, not so much like these other guys. You guys, like they'll stick to one channel maybe sometimes, or they'll find a few that they like. When I in this job, as I've found more channels, I go into it with open mind, just understanding like everyone is unique, everyone has their own insight about like how they're gonna digest the material. I think the main thing that I like to do is find specific movies that I know pretty well, and then I can dissect how they react to it, and so like I'm able to engage with that and sort of like understand them a little more about like the way they're interacting with the material. I think one that we saw recently is Hereditary. Hereditary is one that really shows you who someone is, like while they're watching it. It like it really breaks down those barriers, which, like that they have, like as they're putting up to like be on camera. Like it really sort of like disarms them in a way. So yeah, so stuff like that, it's been like really interesting to watch. I think, yeah, but if there's any material that I just didn't know if I would like, I mean, music reactions has been like just a different sort of, whole genre of reactions that I wasn't really privy to that long ago. And then I started to delve more into it just because like it would show up on certain people's channels. Like they would do, music video reactions, or they would do, like they would have like a music channel, specific channel to do that stuff. Johnny Odell, did the edit reactions compilations for like the Drake and Kendrick, beef,
Hmm.
this past year. So things like that, just like discovering more, of those different genres has been interesting to me.
So do you think we can have that to look forward to next season on Reactorverse? Some music reactors, possibly?
It's possible, yeah. Like I'd had to do a lot more research into that
Hmm.
space, I think. And but yeah, I definitely open to it, just obviously because I think that's a huge, again, demographic of people.
It's just going to be the Sabrina Carpenter trilogy of videos that we're just going to watch on a repeat.
Maybe that'll
Uh,
be it. Yeah, I'll start there. Yeah,
you just start there, and then from there we just go right into the Barry Keoghan verse, and it's going to be
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Um, I mean, Eric, just again, thank you so much for the 2 seasons of amazing content. Content? No, 2 seasons of amazing shows and interviews that we've been doing for Reactiverse and Crossing the Streams. You've definitely made your love and your appreciation of these channels and all the hard work you've been putting into these channels and the community space. I think on behalf of everyone in there, although I'm not a reactor myself, I think everybody, I can speak for everybody and say just a big thank you for just raising awareness for the issues and personalities in this space.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been like it's a little over a year now since we started, and it's been really rewarding. Yeah, just to help people that I already knew, share their story, find new people to share their story. The compliments I've gotten have been very, kind and nice from, people who, have, expressed, like the experience that they've had on the show, and just be able to sit down and talk, and tell, what they've gone through. Yeah, I think overall, my the most rewarding thing I've been able to sort of touch upon with the channel so far and the interviews is just being able to find people
Hmm.
who are fans of them already and get to know more about them.
Hmm.
Because I think, just it's helpful. I think it's helpful for these creators to be seen as like people who have, like, hills to climb. It's not just a job that people can, crank out videos like easily enough, and just to show appreciation for what they do on a daily basis and like the community that they bring to the, internet as a whole.
And I think something that you really brought to passion fruit, as an ethos is just how much it is a job, it is a work, it is a career choice that people are making. We've seen this, people be interviewed talk about quitting their full time jobs to come do this full time, and that is work. It is labor, as we like to say. Creator labor is labor, and creative labor is labor. And I think in addition to that, as part of that, it's also an industry. So the work you do, the work people who do music and graphics do. I mean, this is a whole, imagine it like Hollywood. There's, the people who are in front of the camera, and then there's people who are editing it together. And I mean, I think I have firsthand personal knowledge of just how much of a process that can be, especially with the copyright stuff, and just how much work goes into just the editing of making this material.
Yeah.
So so I think it's really great to just explore that space a little bit more and get shed a little bit more light on how much of a field of industry this is, because this is a giant like creator economy that we love to talk about, but rarely do we talk about like the actual workforce that makes up of it, makes it up. Nope,
Yeah.
something like that.
It's an important aspect of like the creator economy stuff that we've covered on Passion Fruit. Obviously, the easy thing to say about content creators in a way is like they are influencers, like they're the Mr. Beast of the world, stuff like that. But there's always like the huge sort of middle class, so to speak, of creators who are making a living off of the stuff, and all they want to do is have like that sustainability to keep
Hmm.
doing it. Again, the reason I really love reactions is because so much of it is built out of like a love of the game. It's a love of like sharing the material with other people. Making money off of that is like just a way to keep doing it. It's a means to an end. The money is not so much the end for them. It's like the means to keep going. The end is to keep sharing those experiences with the viewers and just keep finding new movies and to keep finding new shows and like, learning, experiencing, finding out more about themselves through it. And one thing I don't want to forget to mention is, like we saw Alex Winter's documentary, The YouTube Effect, about, the radicalization like that goes through YouTube now in like a post, QAnon era of like, misinformation that's spread out and like, weaponized for viewers. And the reason I really love Reactions is because it harkens back to like sort of like the core idea of like what YouTube started with, which is like sharing things with people across the world that's like shared interests and shared ideas and being able to build community in the reaction space from people who are coming together off of like specific materials, whether it be music or a movie or TV show or funny video. That just feels like it's sort of holding on to that idealistic nature of like what the internet and YouTube can be for people. It's not ideological, like, weaponized, things to like make you feel angry or scared. It's to help you, find common ground, like, passion for something with someone that you are willingly going into to hopefully be passionate about with them.
Yeah, I mean, Star Wars community or fandom gets a bad rep, but we've seen them recently rally really hard against the idea that like there is a certain type of person who makes commentary or reactions to that kind of content that is maybe toxic, and it just has no place for people who are genuinely just fans and have actual criticism of the shows and want to connect with people about it and want to have their world about it, that it's a whole world for them, and it doesn't need to be like a toxic space that you're making a brand off of just hating anything that is quote unquote woke.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I want to close this out the way that you usually close it out. We might have to modify these questions a bit. We have our own version of the Proust questionnaire. We can call it the Nerd Chronic Questionnaire. Chronic Questionnaire. Sounds like great Questionnaire. So I guess why don't we just as this applies to your experience as either a interviewer or an editor of reaction channels or a fan, let's just say, what is your favorite show?
My personal favorite show is Battlestar Galactica. My favorite show that I've seen people react to is either Attack on Titan or probably Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Okay, gotcha. What about your favorite film?
My favorite film is Short Term 12.
Yes, that's right. That's true.
It's Short Term 12. That's my favorite film of all time. Right behind that is Arrival, which is like I think a much bigger, more easily recognizable film. And again, my favorite film to watch people react to is probably like Hereditary or like Scream or Cabin in the Woods. A lot of horror, stuff I think is really a lot of fun to get people in there.
Recently got into I love watching people watch M. Night Shyamalan films for the first time.
Shout out to our guy EOM. I will say, like, the person Drew's been like very gracious about seeing everyone that we've I've talked to and like learning more about them. The one that has risen to the top, I think, as her favorite one is EOM Reacts. So if you're watching this, man, like you got to the top there.
I will watch anything that he's watching. I rarely watch comedies, but I will watch that man watch Spaceballs. It's just that funny. He's great. And his reaction to The Village was just like the best movie reaction I've seen in a very long time. So that is true, but this is not a questionnaire about me. So back to you. What stresses you out? Great question.
That's a good question. That's one I ask everyone, on the show. And I know it's like a hard one to sort of quantify, but, for myself, it's like just, obviously time, staying on top of things, just managing the litany of stuff that I have on my plate, but also, I think Wendy from the Movie Couple expressed this. It's the, idea of like saying no. Like it's hard for me to say no to things. It's hard for me to turn down projects and requests from people just because I come from like a background of like having a job for many years that was like not steady from day one, even though last I was there for a long time. But every day it was like, I might lose it tomorrow, so I need to have a backup. And so I always live my life of like juggling multiple jobs and like gigs to support myself in case one falls through. I have another to bounce off of, and just never putting all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah, it's that hustle grind culture mentality of making content on the internet. And we've seen how that can burn out real quick. I applaud you for not saying work-life balance. Good job on that. What helps you relax?
Help me relax is obviously being at home, like with my dogs and, you know, my significant other, so to speak. And, just, no, just being able to, step away from the work in a way that makes me feel like I'm not like abandoning it or like, you know, like leaving it, but just that it's complete, like, you know, completing the work and then getting to relax as like, you know, sort of my benefit from that, like making my brain not have to worry about the exterior stuff. And also, as I found out recently, going to a casino or an arcade. I think that I think the lights and the beeps and boops like all, you know, help my brain sort of shut off for a little bit.
Arcades, casinos, they're all good. Everyone
Yeah.
tell your friends, tell your kids. It's a healthy
Yeah.
habit. Speaking of, what is one hobby or passion you have outside of TV or film, besides, I guess, gambling?
Yeah. Board games. Like, yeah, like I like board games a lot. My favorite one is Unmatched. I think I've mentioned it a couple of times on here. It's like this really cool fighting game with like, you know, these interesting figurines, like and dozens of characters from like King Arthur to Buffy to Ghost Rider to Bigfoot to the T-Rex from Jurassic Park to Da Vinci, not Da Vinci, Houdini. Da Vinci probably will be there one day, I bet.
Shakespeare,
Shakespeare,
Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, Muhammad Ali coming soon, The Witcher, Teen Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, yeah, like it's a huge game. If you haven't heard of it, please go try it out. It's a lot of fun.
It's the real crossing the streams of board games. I'll put
Yeah,
it that way.
yeah.
Uh, what fictional character do you relate to or deeply care about?
Um, it's a good question. It's one again. I ask everyone else, and like I know that's the one that they. I think that's the one that trips them up the most. Um, But I don't know. Again, like my favorite film is Short Term 12, and like it seems like I guess odd to like relate to Brie Larson, like because like her character has like such specific traumas that I don't have like personally in my life, but I empathize with a lot just like because of how she channels that to the people around her,
Hmm.
and you know her effort to help people, and like, you know, dedicating her life to that. I just find that, you know, really inspirational. I just, yeah, there's a line in there I really like that when Caitlin Dever is going to come in, her character, and they say like, you know, please take good care of her. And she's like, I take good care of everyone. Like
Hmm.
that sort of, you know, philosophy is like just like what I sort of strive to have. It's just like not favoring anyone, just like giving everyone a chance to be, you know, heard and seen and taken care of.
What is your, that's a great question. I mean, if you keep saying great question to questions that you write, do they still count as great questions?
They are,
So,
yeah. I'll say, yeah,
yeah.
they all are.
What is your guilty pleasure show or film? And I'll adapt this to saying, what is your guilty pleasure show or film to watch other people react to?
uh, Guilty pleasure. It's hard. Like again, like maybe horror stuff, just because like again that disarms people so much, and it's obvious that they're struggling, you know, a
Hmm.
lot to get through it. So like in one sense, like it's really entertaining for me. I know it's hard for them, especially people who aren't just horror savvy, and like it's like a hard thing. You know, again, we watched EOM reacts, you know, watch The Exorcist, and that was a tough one for him to get through.
Hmm.
But uh, no, I like watching. Yeah, I think hard traumatic things for people to watch, like Last of Us. You know, I loved watching reactions to that. It's I guess not a guilty pleasure, but I feel guilty for taking pleasure in their trauma. You know,
I
like
thought you were gonna say like Mickey from watching 90 Day Fiance, but okay, sure, like
oh,
watching other
for
people's trauma.
reactions, yeah. For
Hmm.
myself, for watching it, yes. Like watching the again, like people say this. A lot of people say this. The trash reality TV is like
Hmm.
such a great one to sort of like again unplug your brain from. I think
Hmm.
that's like the really value I found, like especially in this sort of hustle culture, as we've said, people who do, you know, viewing as a living,
Hmm.
reality TV is such a great escape for them to be
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna watch this thing and not just let it flow over me.
It's weird. You don't see a lot of reality TV reactions except from reality TV shows themselves. Like 90 Day Fiance will have people, they will have their own cast members react
Yeah,
to other people doing season. Great time to
yeah.
plug, by the way. It's not my book, but everyone should pick up a copy of Cue the Sun by Emily Nussbaum. Pulitzer Prize winner. Is a history of reality television starting from the 1940s and the radio, Queen for a Day stuff to Chuck Barris, all the way up to the modern Bachelor, Bachelorette, Golden Bachelor, Bachelorette,
Yeah.
and the shot, like the sort of Schadenfreude we all kind of take in participation programs like that, and it's
Mm.
an amazing book,
Yeah.
really great deep dive exploration. So I plug that real hard.
Also shout out to Normies After Dork and Chris James for
Oh my
the other
God.
reactor adjacent channels that we found recently who watch reality TV shows to commentate on.
Yeah, real shout out to Chris James. I watch you to fall asleep at night. It's really good, but sometimes I laugh so hard that I can't fall asleep. Um, let's see what else we got. What show or film gave you your favorite experience with the channel, or what show or film's reaction gave you your favorite experience with the channel?
Um, well, in my research, like trying to find people's reactions and like discovering like when I find a new channel that I'm not super familiar with at first, I'll do my research just to like get a vibe from how they react to stuff and like understand them a little more. Again, like EOM Reacts was great. Catherine Lassell and her Star Wars content was like really fun to watch, especially in the time that it was coming out. I really like recently Gallifrey Gals and Kat and their reaction to Battlestar that's going on like still currently. So everyone go check that out. I would say also Angela from Funny Little Gal Reacts. I mean, she was just such a treat to have on, and she is such a huge fan of the space. She is, in my opinion, again, not to throw shade or like dismiss anyone else. She is sort of my pick of like the reactor sort of archetype of someone that I like to sort of show as like this is the sort of like spectrum of like what reaction is.
Wow.
She does like really great intros, like really informative intros, but like what she's seen going into the episodes. She does like really long like introspective outros talking about the episode and like what she's dissecting from it. And she's like very emotional about the material. She can cry, she can laugh, she can be invested about the characters. And so yeah, I really highly recommend her videos.
I was gonna say, the channel they are called. I know one of them is named Previewed. Yeah, Jane Addams. Their Ghostbuster Frozen Empire. I know. No preferences here about who edited that video, but I thought that was a really well done video for something that I probably would not have had that much interest in normally. So I'm just gonna answer these questions too. That's
Yeah,
fun for
that's
me.
fine.
Uh, what show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and watch someone react to for the first time?
um I'll tweak it a little bit. I want
Okay, go ahead.
what
Your
show
choice.
from what I want everyone to erase their memories and react to it for again to the first time.
Hmm.
One, it's Scream. That's the easy answer.
Really?
Two, Cabin in the Woods. Like those things. I just love. Those are just my two favorite horror films, and like so I love because of the way they dissect horror tropes and like archetypes and like structural ideas about horror, and so seeing people take that in and like seeing how that affects them is so interesting to me because like again like it's such a culturally impactful film. Both of them are, and I like seeing how that impacts people's viewing experience about movies. But also I wouldn't need to erase everyone's memory from this because no one reacted to it, but I would love to see people react to Short Term 12. I would love to see like everyone just give that like for my birthday, if I could like send out like a blast to everyone like, hey, everyone just please react to this movie for my birthday, just watch that movie and like and just so I can see your experience with it.
Now I'm thinking about it, I don't think I saw that many people reacting to Shang-Chi, which is the same director, because that came out during this weird period, right? Like I didn't, I'm
Yeah,
not sure if I saw so many Shang-Chi direct. If you liked
well,
anyone's Shang-Chi reactions, go watch
yeah,
Short Term 12, please,
yeah,
reactors. Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna say, this might be too much of a easy one day answer, but I would say The Sixth Sense. I would like to erase The Sixth Sense from everyone's memory and have
Hmm.
them go back with the full knowledge of how movies have used The Sixth Sense to like,
Oh yeah.
game our reactions to stuff. But then try to see if how many people actually get it. Because watching EOM recently do The Village, just watching his mind be absolutely blown by
Yeah.
one of those early Shyamalan films was it was really a joy to see.
Yeah, anything with like those big twists, I think would be great. Just to see people, like just to digest for the first time with
Mhm.
those like big cultural twists that you can't escape because like they're so well known.
It's some of the most beautiful parts of the reaction community is realizing that some people have just missed their entire lives watching The Usual Suspects or even hearing anything about Seven or
Yeah,
like, some of these big movies that like I think of as like everyone's seen Fight Club, right? Not everyone has seen Fight Club, and some of
no,
them will react to it.
yeah. Like the common thread I've seen from people is just like I grew up like not watching movies, like it was like not my thing. I played games or read books or watched like rom-coms or something like that, and like now people are using this as an opportunity to expand their horizons more and find more things to learn about in film. It's also a funny thing, there's a little bit of a tangent, but I saw someone post one of those like nostalgic videos on Twitter the other day about like Blockbuster, people shopping on a Friday night at Blockbuster. I thought about it and I was like, man, it's interesting. As for as much shit as we give like streaming, the streaming era of films, it really did sort of break down barriers of like how accessible film is to people. Because the thing is, like, if you weren't like a movie nerd or a cinephile or whatever in the early 90s, you wouldn't go to Blockbuster, you wouldn't go in there to go get anything because you would be like, I don't know what this place is. I don't know. Like, I don't know what I want from here. It's like you had to go there deliberately to go get a movie. You had to get in your car, go drive to the store to go get a movie that you want to go see. And I think that sort of, gave way to a lot of a generation of people who were like, I didn't go see movies because I didn't wasn't interested. So they weren't in front of me to go watch them. Now with like streaming, I think there are a lot of people we see in the reaction space and beyond of people being like, yeah, I have Netflix. Like I'll watch what's on there now. I'll watch Django. That's on. That just showed up. Like, like I think that sort of, is a big reason why we're seeing a generation of people find and discover these movies for the first time.
Yeah, and I mean, look, everyone has their blind spots. I mean, I didn't see Lord of the Rings until fairly recently, and I have tons of movies like that where I'm just like, oh, I guess that one missed me. I hadn't seen most. I think until 2018, I hadn't seen any like the MCU besides maybe like Ragnarok if that came out
Yeah.
then. And I think that was like my first MCU film. It would have been like great, yeah, it really just capturing me understanding what the MCU was at the time.
Yeah.
Although I've been told I talk too much to be a reactor. Seems ironic. I talk too much and I'm too distracted to be a good reactor. So speaking of, what advice would you give to your past self and or anybody looking to enter either the reaction space or the tangential industry of reactions, as it were?
Yeah. To my past self, like specifically like me, like I would say, yeah, keep banking, keep banking videos, like stay ahead of schedule and, so you usually have like backups of things. Like once you have like a good runway, like try to keep that, like don't let it like, outrun you. But
Hustle
also,
more? You tell yourself
yeah,
hustle more?
no, like hustle in the beginning. Like I guess this would be applicable to other channels as well, I guess, to everyone. Like when you're starting, and no one has like any anticipation for like what your release schedule is or like what you're putting out, like bank videos, like give yourself like a month's worth of material to like put out, so that way there's never a day where you feel like, oh my god, like I have nothing to put out tomorrow, like like, oh, like it's Friday, I have nothing to put out, like Frankenstein's chick, part two just isn't gonna work, like you don't want to run to that. So if you're gonna start like a movie channel, like movie reaction channel, yes, watch a ton of movies, like record them, like start editing them, like do that and just get them done. Again, like what everyone will say is like, don't get it perfect. Don't worry about making it look, perfect. Don't worry about, like having all the graphics and everything like down to a T. Just get it done and put it out and figure it out along the way. But in that time before you start, give yourself like a good runway of material to put out. Like don't start and like just shoot at the hip, because that is how people get into like the sink of like, okay, I'm hustling. Now I'm trying to keep up with like this thing that's getting traction. And I want to stay on top of that. That is how you get into like, burnout and like all these things. You got to give yourself time and some like, a buffer zone of work to put out. So that way you don't feel the pressure, like, of breathing down your neck to stay on top of your own schedule.
And what is one sign, I think, and I'll end it here because this is technically the end of the questions, but I just want to know, for as a, as somebody who's a seasoned professional of watching reactors, what is one sign that you can tell that a reactor is, hitting a limit, or they're just, going at a pace that is not sustainable?
Um, when it's obvious that, looking through like their social media posts or something like that, that the work-life balance is starting to slip a little bit. I always advocate, like focus on your life first, like the channel second, take breaks, take vacations, prioritize, loved ones and, other work if it's going to like, if it's making you a living. And if I start seeing people post like, sorry guys, like I'm working on the edit, right now it's, 2 a.m. and I'll get it out as soon as I can. And I would just had a long day at work, like, or, my dog was sick or something like that. Those type of things, like I can see it's like someone's, they're struggling a little bit, and like I hope that they can level out soon so they don't feel, the pressure. Again, one of the main reasons I got into the reaction space behind the scenes in general, as like crossing the threshold of being a viewer to a participant, was being a fan of Iman Snow, and seeing how often she would say she was a mother of two young boys, and thinking like, man, like she must like have a full plate of reacting to videos and like having two kids to take care of and editing those videos and so on. Like it was just like sort of like, I don't know how someone could like put themselves through that on that type of schedule. So when she mentioned, needing an editor, I sort of jumped at the chance because like it was like more of like an empathy thing. I was like, hey, like I know you have a lot in your life going on. Like if you ever need help editing, I'm, willing to help you out in that sense, just to see if that works. And yeah, we, it's been a great working relationship ever since. But that was like my sort of core thing, is like seeing how people, have to really balance their lives in this space, because it is so taxing. It takes so much time to do that. I don't want anyone to feel like, they can't do it. They can't, hash out the time to do it from their work lives. They can't hash out like the mental capacity to do it, from like the viewership pressure. Yeah, just being able to sort of like spot everyone's, expressions, like how they're feeling with the work and how it relates to their life, is like how I sort of see like, okay, are they sort of, hurting here a little bit? On top of that as well, I'll say, I don't want to forget, acclimating to the culture of, the internet can be a big, shell shock, for a lot of people. It's not for everyone. And the unfortunate tactic people say is like, oh, just ignore it. Don't take it personally, like you can't, let it get to you. That's just like the unfortunate, like, advice people give, because that's how you have to sort of like, shut it out, as opposed to like trying to fix any sort of institutional, problems with it, because it's just so daunting to think of it could change. There's a channel that I really liked, several years ago, who's a Walking Dead reactor. Her name was like Naomi E Reacts. She was like this young girl, like 21 years old, just getting into college, and she was reacting to The Walking Dead. And she was a very emotional reactor. She was very good. She quickly, amassed like, like 50,000 subscribers in less than a year. And, she would frequently post in her community posts like, hey guys, like, I really appreciate all the views and, comments on the videos. I know my crying isn't really for everyone. Like, and I like, it's hard. Like that's just my raw emotions. So can you please stop being, mean about when I cry and things like that. And she kept sort of posting things like that. And eventually I saw that one day she just like shut her channel down. And I know that the pressure of like doing that, and like she also shut down her social media and everything. So it's those things that really, pain me to see. Like I hate seeing someone, trying their hand at this and getting shot down by, yes, like the pressure of the comments, of, like feeling like they're not living up to like the standards that they want themselves to be at. It's all about finding your own personal balance. Like the balance that works for you is not the same balance that's going to work for other people. Everyone is different. Everyone in the space is very unique. Your interactions are unique. Just like never compare yourself to anyone of how well they're doing or how well you're doing. Just appreciate, what you've accomplished on a day-to-day basis and just try to push that to the next one.
I will say that it is one of the most vulnerable kinds of YouTubing or like creator experiences I've ever seen is weirdly enough reactions, because it is the one place where you will see grown men cry on the regular. People just crying regularly because it's a genuine expression. And watching people cry, it's kind of like vomiting. Like when somebody starts to vomit and you start to vomit. I've started crying a lot more watching media, because just watching other people cry and tear up and feeling, yes, that empathetic desire to connect and to see what other people are connecting to makes me just feel a little bit more human in this world. So it really sucks that people are getting, shut out from doing that, or feeling like they're being scrutinized for something that is such a human and often under, subsumed expression of humanity.
Yeah. And again, that's a reason I love the reaction space. It's like it's built around, shared passions and like what, Roger Ebert called the empathy machine of, movies, and like what that does for people, like bringing people together. I think it's like a really important aspect of the internet that I am proud to, be a part of and help foster.
Yeah, I think that's so great. And speaking of starting to get that edit out at 2 a.m., it is currently 2:49 on a Sunday night. So this will be out tomorrow morning. So thank you so much
if you're watching this in the morning when this comes out, you're watching this about 7 to 8 hours after we recorded it.
So talk about like a good edit turnaround. This is the man. This is the legend. This is Nerd Chronic and his amazing second season of Reactorverse coming to a close. So we'll be taking a couple weeks break while we get ready for season 3. But then we have some great stuff to come on the channel. So please hit that like and subscribe. And do you wanna hit us out, Eric?
Yeah, you can find us at Nerd Chronic across social media, also at Passion Fruit for us across social media. You can find Drew at VIDEODREW across social media. You can find our links to our Patreon and Discord down below in the video description and the video itself right here. And we'll catch everyone on the next episode.
Subscribe to our newsletter. Bye.